Hey everybody, Ben from the Urbstead. I wanted to come to you today with a follow-up video of how our sweet potatoes are doing since filming the last video, which you can see in this tag. First, I'm going to break this down into two parts. The first part of the video, I'm going to show you how the potatoes looked in method 1 versus method 2, pointing out the organic versus the non-organic, to give you an update on how the potatoes themselves look. The second part of the video, I would like to go over the process of cutting the sprouts off, which you'll see later, and placing them into jars of water so that they can root themselves. I'll give you a quick glimpse here, and you'll have to forgive me, the audio did not record the first time I went through this video, so bear with me, okay? So off the rip, you will probably notice that almost no slips or shoots have come out of these potatoes. You'll notice this potato is actually one of the in-jar potatoes, and what I ended up doing is I ended up taking a slice of this potato, which is an organic. This is also organic. I wanted these in here because I actually wanted to give this potato a shot in the cut method as well, because we only got one of these species of sweet potato. But that still doesn't change the results here, that nothing has grown outside of these tiny little shoots here. Now, you might be wondering, is this organic or non-organic? And the answer is, these are non-organic. And actually, I didn't notice this, but there are shoots here, and here, and here. And that is it. So, this spud and this spud, these ones sprouted. This one did not. These two, this one did not, but this one actually, there is a small sprout right there. So, back here, this one is going to be the only organic one that we planted. It did shoot out a root, which is good, which means that it would soon be putting sprouts out, but still, I'm seeing nothing. So, that's a little disappointing. Now, I do have some fun news with this one specifically, once we move over to the second method that we did. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and keep these in the dirt and just see what happens over the next week or two before we kind of call it quits on that. Moving over to method 2, you can see that the water method is just vastly superior. Now, does the organic to non-organic matter, and does it play a role? And from these results, it would seem that yes, it does play a role. This potato here, if you'll remember, is one of the organic, and this potato here is one of the non-organic. Now, this test has not been super rigorous. These are even different species of sweet potato. This is actually the cutting that I took from over here. You can see almost immediately, once I put this in the water, this was like 4 or 5 days ago, all of these shot out, which doesn't usually happen that fast, but it's almost as if they were just ready to come out over here, and all they needed was excess moisture. So you could say I'm definitely missing a couple data points, but this is a very rough and rudimentary example and test between organic and non-organic. So again, this is one non-organic potato, 2, 3, 4 non-organic potatoes that actually have sprouts, but they're tiny. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the pieces of organic potato are sprouting, and they're sprouting big. Like, this sprout is not very tall, but it actually broke, and it's extremely stout. The base of that is very thick, which that's good, because that's going to be a pretty strong plant. Now, obviously over here, we're talking about, like, that's like a full-grown plant right there. So this one will be ready for us to do the root propagation process coming up soon. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to get either a pair of pruning shears, or you'll want to get a really sharp knife. So we're going to prepare this tall piece. And we are going to just find the base of this one tall sprout, and I think it is right here. Beep, 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 right between my fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and take the scissors and go right down to the base. You want to get as close to the potato itself as possible. Going to give it a nice clean snip. That is what you're looking at. So you'd think that I just ruined this plant by cutting it, and we will see shortly what this plant will turn into once we finish the process. So the next step here, I'm going to take this sprout and I'm going to go ahead and set it in this glass jar. All I'm going to do now is fill that jar so that at least the bottom part is submerged in water. All you need is for the bottom to have water, but what I'm going to look for here is I'm going to look for some root nodules, which I see some. And these nodules are going to be locations where roots will potentially sprout out. So if you look here inside or on the edge of this plant, you see some white dots. Now what I believe is that those are going to be root nodules. What you can see here at the base is that these little white dots are actually growing little brown tips. This is what I believe will become the new roots to the plant. So what we're going to do is we're going to submerge those dots in a little extra into the water, and shortly, I think maybe 2 or 3 days, we should start to see those nodules extend out and become roots for the future plant. To give you an example of what that's going to look like, I already have some sprouts here that have gone nuts. As you can see, this whole thing is now covered in roots. But I'll peel this apart and show you what I actually pulled off. This is a sprout itself, and you can see how crazy the roots have gone. Here's one that was done more recently, and you can see how small the roots are. And then finally, this is a batch itself. Each of these 3 are a batch. Oh, looks like there's 4. And what we're going to do is, when it comes time to plant, we're going to plant each of these individual sets, and they're going to each become a set of sweet potato plants. Play. These are not that big, but it is. Ah, yes. Look at that. Here I'll give you an image of what it looks like when below the submergence line of the potato. You can see that the potatoes kind of just stayed moist around to this deep, and this next one, which is a little higher up, so that most of the leaf is out of the water but the base is in, has some gnarly root growth starting. So I'm going to try, and instead of using scissors, I'm going to just try and pop it off to maintain that root growth. Alright, so this one looks like an absolute forest, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to give you a reveal here of what it's going to look like as I pull it out. I assume that with this much growth, we're about to see something really covered in roots, as you can already see a little bit here. So whoa! Look at that. Okay, that is insane. And I'm going to guess that most of these roots here are coming from this batch, but it definitely looks like every plant here is putting out tons of roots. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and snip these off. I'm going to save these for a separate jar because there's enough on here for its own individual jar. And you know, actually, these are probably good enough to plant right into the ground. At this point, it's not warm enough that I'm comfortable putting these out yet, but I mean, this is what you want to see. So, crazy. All right. So then you can see that the rest of these roots are actually just from the potato itself. I'm going to resubmerge this, and we're going to let all of these potatoes keep going for maybe another week or so. It never hurts to have a couple more plants. But as you can see from this one, and this is actually a third of the sweet potato, it is the middle half, or it is the middle portion of the 3 cuts of this potato. So this specific potato here, it just must have been incredibly fruitful in comparison to these other potatoes. These 2 are from one as well. This potato will look good, you know, in the coming future, but as of now, it's not. So overall, we're mostly going to see this potato grow in our garden. All right, okay. So you can see here that we have a mountain, literal mountain of plants of these sweet potatoes, which once they're all fully rooted and once the weather is nice and warm, and I'm confident about it staying warm, these puppies are all going to be going in the raised bed. So in total, for this experiment, we got 12 sweet potatoes, 6 organic, 6 non-organic, of various different varieties, and essentially out of what was 3 or 4 potato parts that were very productive, which is only 2 different species, maybe 3 species, we got what amounts to approximately 35 plants. Can you believe that? 35 plants. And each of these plants, there's no reason why they shouldn't each produce 3 to 4 or more sweet potatoes themselves. This is basically the picture of abundance. I mean, potatoes are kind of a cheat, because even normal potatoes, you put 1 spud in and you get a bunch of spuds out, or you even cut 1 spud up into pieces and you get a bunch of spuds out. These ones kind of take the cake in terms of rapid growth. Also garlic. But anyways, this is what I wanted to show you today. This is what I really wanted you to see from that beginning process, seeing how easy it is to start potatoes, sweet potatoes, and seeing how abundant it is once they get going on their own. Again, apologies for the audio. I don't know why, but my audio didn't end up saving when it recorded. But please leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts or ideas of another plant you would like me to show you how to propagate or start from seed or anything like that. Go get some sweet potatoes. Go cut it up, put in some water, and make your own sweet potato sprouts and grow on.